Happy Monday, everybody. What happened to the weekend? Nothing. If I put it into perspective for you, hope you're well. I'm Russ Kane. This is Men's Radio Station. This is my daily show. Hey, listen, let me put into perspective how good yesterday was, right? If I tell you my freaking highlight of my day yesterday, the whole of Sunday, was going to Pets at Home and buying some dog food. That was it. That was the highlight. Gives you some idea about my weekend. Saturday was good. My usual cigar and coffee with the boys up in Soho. That was lovely. And then a bit of Strictly in the evening. But, and Shirley Ballas liking my comments on Twitter. What more do you want out of life? I'll tell you what you want more out of life. I'll tell you now. He is the Don Juan of New Malden. He is the silver fox of kind of southwest London. I don't know where New Malden is. It's somewhere off the A3. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him. You love him. It's only Neil Long. Oh, God, this new computer is fantastic.
After such a build-up.
Yeah, it was shit. It was absolute shit. And I'll tell you for why. Because I'm so used to using a mouse. And on my fabulous new MacBook Air, which was my birthday present from my family, which is gorgeous, and I love it. You have to get used to using it. Hello all. Hello, Emma Webb. Hope you're well, sweetheart. And Azadon Brown calling in from the northeastern United States. Good day. Oh, this is a bit American. Aza, it's a bit American, mate. It's a bit American. May you and your audience have a truly blessed day. Well, bless your heart, Aza. Bless your heart. And then we got Elizabeth. You can do this one.
A whole rainbow outside my window is what you want. Good morning. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Christ, if you look carefully, you can see Judy Garland going, no more drugs. This is your mate. Here's your pal.
RVB, hello to you. I had a bit of a show busy weekend. I was turning on Christmas lights.
No one's interested in your living room, Neil.
No, not the living room.
Oh.
No. In Cobham.
Yeah. Get the hell out of Dodge.
And in Oxshott. And guess who turned on the lights in Oxshott? Louise Redknapp.
Louise Redknapp. Oh, yes. What was her first name before she got Louise?
Nerding.
Louise Nerding. I did a promo with her.
Did you?
Yeah, I'll tell you about that another time. Julie Voice coming in from Houston in Texas. Good morning, Russ and Neil. Yeehaw!
Hello, Julie. Thank you for your text. Sent me a lovely text. Appreciate it.
I think she wants you. You're a handsome man, and I don't blame her. And this is Macintosh. I don't know what that means. Typical. Did you bring a note, mate? Barry J. Allen. Late. Sorry. Right, we've got to crack on. We've got a packed show.
Okay.
This guest was introduced to me by my old advertising buddy, Priesty Boy, Ian Priest, who most of the stories about him I can't tell because even by my standards, they are utterly obscene. When we were in advertising together, they were disgusting, but fabulous. I bet he forgets them now, but I already can't. Let's go to France quickly. Bonjour, mon ami. Bonjour, Rudy Sigal, ça va? Oui. Je suis pas mal. Okay, there we are. We got France, we got America, we got Houston, we got New York, Northeast United States, and now we've got Steph. There he is.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Greetings.
I'm all right. Are you in the studio? Are you in a basement there? That looks like kind of dark and mysterious. And what's going on?
Yeah, I look very professional, don't I?
No. One of the words, yeah.
The background looks professional. I'm actually in Wave Studios in Soho, which you probably know, Warren Hamilton.
I don't know. Friend. No, I don't know Warren. What street's that on?
It's on Great Pulteney. Yeah.
On Great Pulteney Street? Yeah. What are you doing in Wave Studio? What are you doing there?
Well,
just this? Or are you recording a new album? Steph and the Steph Tones?
I wish. No, it's an advertising sound studio. And I bought a friend of mine who I met in Brixton Prison, Stephen Cappier, who's a rapper. And we are hoping to, at some point, start EXO Records. And I brought him in here because he's all about sound and music. And it may be that he can get some work here. So
you never know. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Right. Yeah. Steph, you're a mate of Priesty Boy.
Yeah.
Ian Priest.
Legend.
I can't even tell you. Neil, to put it into perspective, you've got to understand this. We were the only company to get a ban for life, a lifetime ban at the Kensington Roof Gardens, not once, but twice.
That's great. How did you manage that?
We also got banned from life from the Commonwealth Centre.
Not the Commonwealth, just the centre.
Commonwealth Centre. And I think we got banned for life also from London Zoo. That's how hard we parted.
I need to hear the zoo one. I don't know about that.
Oh, the zoo one?
Yeah. How did that? No?
It was disgusting.
Right.
You ever
Didn't
seen
involve a
those
penguin.
films?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Steph, you ever seen those movies where like Caligula's running Rome and you think that looks fun?
Right.
Yeah, Caligula would have gone, whoa, too heavy for me, and he would have buggered off.
Russ
That's
and
a fact.
Priesty.
Well,
Right.
where was
here
my
we go.
invite to all this decadence?
Because you weren't in advertising in those days. You were cutting your teeth in Thibby. Here we go. From St. Kitts, David Wimble. Good morning. How does the theme tune go for Death in Paradise? We've got to do it together. 1, 2, 3. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Right, there we go. Right, tell us all about yourself, Steph, what you're doing, because it's darn clever.
Okay, thank you. Well, I used to have an ad agency, which is how I know Priesty, called Big Al's Creative Emporium. About 4 years ago, I started volunteering in Brixton Prison. And
I've got to ask you, because I know Neil's about to jump in and say, why? What urged you to do that?
This is going to sound maybe a bit weird. I was a quite happy atheist until I was 50. And
You were what? I'm sorry.
Quite a contented atheist.
Oh, right.
And various things started happening, and I ended up finding faith. And
Blimey.
yeah, it was a big.
Okay,
big old,
I got nothing to add to that because it will only fall out. I got nothing.
Okay.
I'd love to know what happened. I'd love to know what happened. How did it happen?
Yeah.
What, the faith bit or the Brixton bit?
No, the faith,
bit.
Yeah.
Well, in all honesty, and this, I don't mean this to sound smug, but I sort of looked at my life and went, I've got a good business, I've got a good partner, got a great wife, great kids, I've got friends. Why the hell am I not a bit happier? Something was missing, and I didn't know what it was. And throughout my life, I've tried booze, I've tried the odd drug, all the sort of, I was going to say healthy distractions, unhealthy distractions, and also had a little look at humanism and Buddhism and blah, 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 and nothing was filling that, just that something that was missing. And then I started crying a lot. And I'm not a cryy person. I'm quite sort of, brave face and all that. And it wasn't sadness. I mean, it might have been a little kid cuddling its mum or a sunset or all the cliches, as well as sad things. But I was I could feel emotion much closer to the surface. And it was sort of,
I know
as
exactly
I say.
what you mean by that.
Okay.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Very much.
So you mean
happened to me very similar.
Wow. So like you're looking at stuff, I don't know, John Lewis advert, and you start crying. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being serious.
No. I mean, Ross, it could have been John Lewis advert. I just was much more emotional than I used to. Something was softening, and I now know I was having my heart softened because it was quite hard. My heart. I was quite a tough, not that tough.
You
but
kind of have to, but Steph, we've kind of followed the same route. You have to be.
Yeah.
You have to be. It's a nasty world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could be that. It could be that. And then some friends of mine that from university, I'd always end up at the same dinner table with them. I'm from Dulwich, and we'd always end
you're in Dulwich?
Yeah. Is that your manor?
No, I went to school there for 9 years. Where are you in Dulwich? I mean, don't give me the exact address, but
well, I'm 500 yards from the college. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, put it that way.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the most important place. That's still a huge draw for me. If I drive through Dulwich or visit it, it's incredibly emotional for me.
Is it? It's an oasis, isn't it? It's an oasis.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Oh,
in the middle of it.
It is an oasis, but I can't find Liam Gallagher anywhere. Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, so moving on. Ended up getting plastered at the end of the dinner table with this guy that I knew was a Christian, and I was saying, "Come on, mate, why are you sort of something about you?" And he wouldn't play along. And in the end, I was presenting some posters to Dominic Cummings, right, just before Brexit. So we won't go down there, Russ, because I suspect we'll fall out there as well. But anyway.
Well, that's enough to make anyone want to cry.
Okay, well, anyway, Steph, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks a lot, and good luck with everything you do.
Yeah. So
We
so
were sold a pop.
yeah, we all know that now, don't we?
We
But,
were sold a pile of crap, weren't we? Jesus.
and in the end, we met. The story's too long. I ended up going to a church and just ended up, getting whacked. What I now know to be the Holy Spirit. And when that happened, I went, I'm not. It doesn't need faith. I know that there's something there, and that ended up. So I started going to a church in Clapham. The vicar at Brixton Prison at that time had cancer. So the men weren't getting a Sunday service, and the call went out to churches in Peckham and Stockwell and blah blah blah. And our church went, we'll come in and help out. And I didn't know my house from my Bible. I was new to this, but I thought, well, I can make cups of tea and pray with the guys. As soon as I turned in there was a big, remember the old lottery? It could be you. It was that from upstairs going.
More like the more like Terry Gilliam's Monty Python cartoon. Really, when I think of that.
Yeah, well, it was very much a sense of right. As soon as you've got your third kid off the payroll, you need to come in here and help sort out what I then learnt to be the cycle of reoffending, which is what drags a lot back. Guys are stuck on. They come out. They mean to go straight, but they can't get work, and they end up going back to what they know and end up back where they started inside.
Right.
So that's.
This is incredibly alien to me. I've done work with charities with prisoners. That's not new to me.
Right.
The notion of suddenly you were filled with the Holy Spirit, I guess that's a whole different show. But in a few sentences, if such a thing is possible, it's because you couldn't find anything more alien to me. I'm not going to speak for Neil. I couldn't imagine anything less likely to happen to me. It just won't.
Right.
What did it feel like? I mean, can you explain?
Which one are we talking about now?
But you said you were sitting there and suddenly you were filled with the Holy Spirit.
Oh, blimey. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the closest I can get is when you cast your mind back to being a spotty little 13-year-old schoolboy when you happened upon an orgasm. Yeah, you actually had your first orgasm.
I sent them straight back to lost property if I found it.
But you just went, what the hell is that? And that was very much a physical experience. But this was, I've had kids, I've had lots of experiences in my life, but nothing compared to this utter joy. And yet what happened was it was like being put in a washing machine for 2 hours and just being tumble dried in joy. And what was coming out was I was crying for 2 hours. And obviously all the pain, all the things I'd done wrong, I was being forgiven. So everything that I'd carried.
What have you been
I don't know.
For?
Well, I've not done anything serious.
Well, there you go. You're not a mass murderer.
This
of an African country, you're doing all right.
This is really fascinating because I had a kind of experience in a open mic night in Brixton, which I'll be happy to share if we got time on the show.
Please do.
Is that all right, Russ?
We do. We got Dr. Sarah Jarvis, and she's on a tight schedule because we've got to get her in and out because she's really booked up. But go on, Neil.
I was doing some stand-up comedy, which can be a little bit unsavory, shall we say. And I had a very kind of old school perception of, because what I was taught was, like most of us were taught, a big sort of judgmental bloke in the sky who at best is a cop and at worst can be quite brutal. Not a particularly loving notion, shall we say. And it seemed to me that most of the world had that belief, and I didn't really buy into it. And the God Squad came in, black and beautiful and young, and they had this
into the comedy night.
It was an open mic night, so you could do anything. You could do jazz, or you could do poetry, or stand-up comedy, or preaching the gospel if you wanted to. And they came in, and they had a big banner saying "Church of the Redeemed Seraphim" or something like that. And I have to say, there was a collective roll of eyes in the room. It was a fascinating little place in Brixton, full of books all around the wall, only about double the size of a living room, all about Black history. It was before Obama, otherwise he would have been there. But it was all the black luminaries in the past. Fascinating place. And they got on stage, and I don't know if you've seen Sister Act, like with Whoopi Goldberg.
I have deliberately avoided it because it's got Whoopi Goldberg in it.
I love Whoopi Goldberg, but it was very like that. It was very kind of very evangelical. I rebelled, and the Lord saved me. And I'm not really into all that at all, and I find that a little bit off-putting, if a little scary. But I have to say, by the end of it, there was a palpable presence, and that's the only thing I can say, in the room, and it felt like chocolate sauce being drizzled on ice cream. It felt utterly peaceful, utterly loving, utterly embracing, utterly supportive. It felt like a hand on my shoulder saying, "Go on, son, give it your best shot." So not this kind of judgmental, "You've done bad things." It was present moment. In fact, I would even go as far as to say, it didn't. You only need to be forgiven. You only need to forgive if you've judged or condemned. And this energy, presence, whatever it was, wasn't judgmental at all in its essence. It didn't judge, so therefore it didn't need to forgive. It just was, and I've never forgotten the experience. And I told my local vicar about it, and he said it was, I quote, Christianity at its best. But I will say, I mean, you was a blast of joy, and me was this utter embracing, accepting presence, which filled the whole room, no question about it. And never experienced anything like it before or since. But it's nothing like what we were taught growing up. I would throw all of that in the bin. It was nothing like that. That is complete opposite of what it was.
It would be very rude of me to comment. Right. Let's talk about Exo Bikes. What you've done, how you've set it up, what the deal is.
So first thing we did was set up the charity. The charity is called Onwards and Upwards, and the purpose of the charity is to break the cycle of reoffending. And what we wanted to do is rather than take a charitable approach, we want to take a commercial approach. Because the guys need work, right?
Yeah.
They need. I didn't want sympathetic. These guys know how to make money. They've just been making money with shifting the wrong product. A lot of them.
Yeah.
And so it was really a question of what can they do? What does the market need? And then I want to use those businesses as like a platform to give all the guys inside the belief that there is a place for them on legit street, if you like. You know, they can go and get a legitimate 9-to-5 job, pay their taxes, not have to look over their shoulder, and go back to the community with their head held high and become a positive example. At the same time, this was a couple of years ago, pre-Brexit and what's the other thing? I can't remember. The other
apocalypse.
COVID. Yeah, exactly. So there was men leaving prison weren't getting jobs. Now they are. They're a kind of, too often it's a distressed purchase because you haven't got Europeans that you can employ in the kitchen or in the bar or on the building site. And I didn't want it to be because there's so much talent in there, guys. If you've not been in, you wouldn't believe it. But so it's a question of creating the businesses so they can show the world what talent they've got. The businesses I wanted to be public facing so that any of us could go and have our hair cut by them, buy a bike from them, do a workout with them, buy a sausage sandwich from them, and come away and go, what a great bloke Frankie Five Knuckles is, yeah? It's not true what the Daily Mail says.
Especially when he was giving me a shave in the prison barbershop and had a razor to my throat.
Timpsons.
I wasn't nervous at all.
Timpsons do that, don't they?
Timpsons do it.
Bloody Timpsons. I've been trying to get Timpsons on the show for about 2 years, Neil, because I think they're phenomenal. Their attitude is sensational.
Yes,
I love it.
Very much so. And also, there's the Clink charity as well.
I've done that. I've done the Clink thing. I've done the restaurants in the prison, which was amazing. And joking aside, Mr. Steph Jones, they would not allow the people who were serving and waiting and talking to have the cutlery. We were not allowed anything except plastic cutlery. Just to put it, so my joke about the cutthroat razor was based on the fact that when I've been in there, I'll give you a marvelous example, Steph, of how this can be turned around. There's what's it called? There's a yogurt company. It's not a joke. There's a yogurt company. I went to another charity evening. It was an amazing thing. Just before pandemic, if you can remember that far back, when we had a life. And they were talking about the people that they'd take on this yogurt. I can't remember the name of it, but you'd know it. It's like one of the big main yogurt brands. And this really cheeky black kid got up and he was their head salesman.
Right.
And he said, I bet you're wondering how I did it. He said, well, I went for the interview and he said, and I was a very successful drug dealer. I mean, I was the best in my area. And I said to them, I just love this. The place went mad. It gave them a huge round of applause. And I said to them, look what I can do. I'm a fantastic salesman. You need to take me on. They said, we love this kid. And he's their number one salesman. I mean, what you're making, it is possible.
Absolutely. I mean, James Timpson, talking of heroes, is he says the best people that he takes on are coke dealers. Yeah, if he can find the right coke dealer, they will do very well in one of his concessions. Selling keys. Selling keys.
Because they are key. Be careful with your language there. Keys and coke, obviously. The point is, they are. Yes, it's strictly illegal, and no, it's extremely dangerous.
Well, they're not stupid.
They are ferocious salespeople.
Yeah, but it's not, and it's not just sales. If you think the component parts of what a dealer will do, he's a businessman. It's distribution,
when you've read,
supply.
If you're a friend of Priesty Boy, then you'll have read Freakonomics, which is one of my Bibles, right? Yeah, and Freakonomics has 1 or 2 chapters just devoted to the commercialism of the drug industry and how I don't mean some Pablo Escobar sitting in a $8 gazillion mansion in the middle of the jungle. I'm talking about a much more local level. And you see the structure of it. It's structured exactly like any other business.
Yeah, that's right.
Except you won't get shot.
That's right. But
or knifed.
They've come up as young teenagers, and that's the business they've been confronted with, or the people on the estate. That's the product they're shifting. So that's what they know. It's not a big leap to just take that experience and go, right, you're going to do bikes, or you're going to do sandwiches, or whatever, and they'll be off. But that's not where we're at the moment. Having said that, a couple of the big banks are talking to us about trying to get their graduates paired up with our guys so that they can do, I say banks, like the big consultancies like KPMG and so forth, that can their graduates, these bright guys from Oxbridge and MIT and that, hook up with our guys that might want to go into become a mobile mechanic, so they can put a business plan together with them, try and raise funding and just get them going. So that's
Steph, let me ask you this, because it's something I did earlier this year and I found it enormously rewarding. It was another charity asked if I'd be a mentor, and I went, okay, why not? If you think I can teach anybody anything. And I took under my wing this 16-year-old kid, Muslim kid, girl from East London. We have nothing in common.
But she's taught you lots though, hasn't she?
I taught her loads and got a fantastic job and totally sort of told her what to, showed her what life was about. And she taught me tons. She taught me tons. And the charity kept saying, oh, Russ, thank you so much. I said, don't thank me. I said, I've got as much out of this relationship.
Yes.
And we never met in person, by the way. It's all done on Zoom, obviously.
Yeah.
And I said, but I've got as much out of this relationship as I hope that she has. And she wrote charming
They
stuff.
say that all true benefits are mutual, don't they? I did some volunteer work in Feltham Young Offenders Prison, the Young Offenders Institution. And the majority of the people I met there just needed really good mentorship and guidance, and certainly were worth another chance.
Absolutely, Neil. I'm glad you mentioned that. When I started this, I looked, I walk around Brixton Prison, and there's not a lot of these around there. Middle-aged, middle-class, white blokes. And I thought, Steph, you're going to cock this up. What do you know about the community, road life, the conditions or the circumstances that got them here and the challenges they're going to face escaping it? I said, I need some experts. So I went and recruited 6 senior gang people that had turned their back on the gangs and said, I need a steering committee, lads. Will you help me? And because I'd seen them 3 or 4 times, first time I went and met them, it was like I was ignored. Second time, they just about raised an eyebrow. Third time, they'd kiss their teeth. Fourth time, yo, Steph, let's go for a walk. Because I was there for them, and this bloke has either sent them down or kicked them out of the class historically. So there's not a huge amount of trust there. But if you don't make promises you can't keep, and you're reliable, then suddenly they go, he is here for me. So I started to think, and we called it the Gang for Good. And Ben Einer, the graffiti artist,
no.
Okay. Well, anyway, there is one. He did our logo.
Yeah, there's
for
a
us.
million. I know. I live in London.
Right. Okay.
Jesus.
So I'm hoping that we're going to do a thing called the Triangle of Trust. You'll have Russ Kane there, a guy that's left the road life here, and down here there's a guy, a 12-year-old on an estate whose dad's not around. Yeah. Now
Yep.
the guy that's been inside before, he'll listen to him, and that guy can mentor him, but he'll tell him what not to do. Yeah. Whereas this guy over here, the Russ Kane or the Neil Long or the Steph Jones, can tell him what he could do, open his eyes to things. And that's what I'm doing here today at Wave, bringing Stephen in here, going, look, drill, grime, this, that, and the other. Well, there's West End Sound Studios here. They're doing sourcing music for adverts, blah, 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 blah. Just opening his eyes to it. But because Stephen trusts me and I trust Stephen, there's a young guy that trusts Stephen. The young guy might trust me. And then we can pull these young lads out of the estates and go, yeah, you're not going to prison, but you don't just have to sit on the dole either. You can come and get a job in a place like this and flourish. Yeah. You're as good as everyone else. You're smart. You're connected. Come on, let's do this. And often it's about hope and energy. Yeah.
And having faith in people tend to live up to our expectations of them, don't they?
Yeah. Yes.
It's almost, I'll never forget this story where it was a school teacher and he was actually teaching the remedial class, but he didn't know it. And he was told he was teaching the A grade students, right? Yeah. He was told he was teaching the top stream. Yeah. So he treated them as if they were the top stream. And suddenly their grades from getting nothing, boom, shot up and they started getting straight A's. So it's not about only the faith that we have in ourselves or a source energy, that's what I like to call it. It's also the faith we kind of imbue in other people, right?
And that's your free economics right there. It's the fact that they were treated differently, they rose to the expectations.
I need to read this book. I've heard of it. I've not read it.
It's really good. It's very clever, and it cuts through all the nonsense. It cuts through the weeds, and it just tells it. It gives a realistic view of how certain aspects of the world actually work, not how we're told they work, how they actually work. And the language is cleverly written. I recommend it. I got it somewhere.
I'll check it out.
I'll never find it. It's in one of my lockups. God knows. Well done, you, Steph Jones.
Thank you, Russ.
Interesting stuff. Interesting. These things are possible. I think the shame is, and I say this so often, and it really bugs me, really. It takes people like you and people like Neil, not people like me, to... What are you pointing out? God,
it's not me. Please, it's not.
Do me a favor.
I'm just hands and feet.
No.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
You're not. Your faith is your faith, but please don't drag God into it. Just do me a favor with that.
Right.
What I'm saying on a daily practical nature, it's never the government of the day that does these things. They can't even police London. They can't even police the country. I'm talking about London because it's a freaking mess, thanks to the worst mayor in living memory. But it's people like you and people like Neil, and occasionally me, but very occasionally, who take the initiative. No, because I've only got a limited amount.
Well, there is the minor detail if you're running a radio station that contributes to the really important issue of mental health. I mean, just saying. There is that minor detail.
Yeah, but I don't think of it like that.
You kind of keep overlooking
sweet of you to say. Sweet of you to say so.
Elephant in the room.
It's sweet of you to say so. But what I'm saying is, if it wasn't for people like you, we have got to go. You can hang, because I know that Dr. Jarvis has got to pop in and pop out. So, Steph, your choice. You can hang with us, or you can go. Absolutely.
Have I got time for a quick wee while the doctor?
I'm going to take you off, and then you come back when you're ready.
You can have a long one.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know her. She is a very big deal. She's been on the show several times. Important stuff. It's Dr. Sarah Jarvis. That's only who.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello there. How are you?
How are
you?
Doc,
how are you?
All good. Thank you.
Good. Welcome back to the show. I don't know if you can remember. I think you've been on twice before.
I have.
Now I know
possibly
that you're possibly 3 times before. I think possibly that might be the case. Anyway, Dr. Jarvis, I know you're under the cosh vis-a-vis time. Tell us why you're here and what you want to talk about.
So I'm here to talk about a new campaign to raise awareness of the importance of immunisation this winter. We know that COVID and flu, of course, both spread more easily in winter and they can cause serious illness. And while we've got really good coverage against flu, for instance, for older people over 65s, pretty much 3/4 of over 65s have had their flu vaccine, hurrah, which of course we know is going to help protect them against serious illness this winter. We have got lower levels. So for instance, only about 46% of only about 54% of over 50s have had their COVID autumn booster. About 46% haven't. And you know, for instance, where flu is concerned, there are a couple of really worrying statistics. More than 70% of pregnant women haven't had their flu vaccine this year. Yet we know that unfortunately flu can cause really serious complications both to you and your baby when you're pregnant. It doesn't contain live vaccine. It can't infect you, but it will boost your immune system, which will allow you to pass on protection to your baby too. And about 2/3 of 2 and 3-year-olds haven't had their flu vaccine either. And yet under 5s are the second highest risk group in terms of hospital admissions for flu.
Goodness me. Because some people still think flu is just like a bit of a bad cold.
It's not.
Yeah, it really isn't.
Horrible.
It really, really isn't. There is no
Horrid.
such thing as a touch of flu. That is a complete fallacy. I use the £20 note analogy. If there was a £20 note on the floor in front of you, if you could bend down and pick it up, you can keep it. If you've got flu, would you be able to? Probably not.
I'd crawl across the floor. Now, Dr. Jarvis, can I be a little bit contentious? Because I really would love your opinion. And it's not a setup. I really do want your opinion. I am the first in line for the flu vaccine. Every year. Boom. As soon as it's announced, I'm there within a couple of days. Give me what you got this year. I'm going to take it. I have put off having my 4th COVID jab. You're going to shout at me? I know you're going to yell at me.
I'm not going to shout at you because a lot of people have. But let me explain why.
I'm scared to do it.
Why? Tell me why. I'm interested. I'm really interested.
I have been debating. I'm thrilled that you could come on because I have been debating this for weeks. I'm inundated with having offers of my 4th jab. Okay. I think I've had COVID a couple of times. I got away with it pretty mildly.
Yeah, and did you have COVID after you had your first vaccine?
I genuinely can't remember.
Right. Okay. So the really important thing is,
can't remember.
One of the things I get a lot from people is they go, "Oh, well, I've had the first 3 and I've had COVID, so therefore I'm protected, aren't I?" Sadly, it doesn't work like that.
Oh no, I don't think I'm protected. I just am worried about the side effects. Okay,
so if you think about the side effects, and I'm not going to ask you how old you are, I wouldn't be so impolite.
Very old.
So the simple fact of the matter is that as you get older, unfortunately, no matter how healthy you feel, your risk of becoming seriously unwell does increase. I mean, before we had the vaccines, we were saying the evidence showed that for every 7 years older you were, your risk of having serious ending up in hospital or dying of COVID doubled. Now, if you put that into perspective, 7 years, 14 years, 7 years, 14 years, 21 years, 28 years, 35 years, 42 years, 49 years, compared to a 19-year-old, a 70-year-old is, let's have a think, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128 times more likely to end up in intensive care or dead
than a
healthy 20-year-old. So I think that is what we need to bear in mind. Sadly, the protection that you get from COVID does reduce over time. We know that, for instance, if you haven't had a COVID vaccine for at least 6 months, then you're 3 times more likely to end up in hospital than if you have had a COVID vaccine, if you've had your autumn booster. Let's put this into perspective.
Okay.
This time a year ago, vaccines had already been around for a year. The majority of people were vaccinated. The people who weren't vaccinated were more likely to be younger. Therefore, they were more likely to be at lower risk of COVID than the people who were vaccinated. Therefore, you would have thought that people who weren't vaccinated would be less likely to end up in ITU because they were a lower risk in the first place. Absolutely opposite. They were 7 times more likely to be on critical care units than people who were vaccinated, despite the fact that overall, the people who weren't vaccinated were younger and at lower risk. So that, I think, really does put the risks into perspective.
I know you're and beautifully explained as you always do. That's why you're so articulate and so eloquent when you speak, and we love having you on as a guest. Let me ask you this: I don't wear a tinfoil hat. I really don't. I'm a realist. I'm not a conspiratorialist. I've got an actual life, so I'm not. I don't go into conspiracies. What is this thing about people dying young with heart issues?
Okay, so
is this a load of nonsense, or is there?
It's not a load of nonsense, but we need to put it into perspective. So, for instance, we know that your risk of getting COVID is very high if you haven't been vaccinated. Among a particular group, which is mostly sort of adolescent boys in particular, then there is a condition called myocarditis. It does not. There has been, as far as I'm aware, there's been no incidence of death. It's a mild inflammation of the heart muscle, and it seems to be a reaction to the vaccine. But, and here's the really big but, the risk of getting myocarditis, even if you are in one of those very high risk groups, adolescent boys, is much lower if you get the COVID vaccine than it is if you get COVID. So actually, they're not dying. There is I think there was a case of 8 million vaccines, and you put me on the spot here, so forgive me if my stats are slightly out. But 8 million vaccines given to adolescent boys in the USA, and there were, I think it was 5 to 11-year-old boys. They had 13 cases of confirmed myocarditis, all of which were mild and resolved without any treatment.
Well,
now that was largely
because we can get it can all get in the media, and it can get hyped, can't it? And
absolutely. But the risk of all these complications is many-fold higher. So, for instance, same thing with something called CVST, which is cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. There is a tiny risk of that. I mean, absolutely tiny. The biggest risk is among women in their 30s and 40s. But when you look at the statistics, again, 8 to 10 times more likely to get that complication if you have COVID than if you have the vaccine. And I think this is always the problem. No vaccine is entirely without risk, but we have to put the risks of vaccination into perspective compared to the risk of getting severely unwell. And if you have the COVID vaccine, you are much, much, much less likely to become severely unwell.
Now, as your surgery is open, here is a question from one of your patients. She's suddenly your patient. She's on your roster. And I'll read this out. Dr. Jarvis, didn't get my third COVID because I had the illness. I'm now due to have major surgery. This is Sue Sleet up in Fife.
Yep.
How do I get another vaccine? And what are the risks now, having missed one?
So the answer is, because you've missed one, you are at significantly higher risk because your immunity will have waned. We know that after you have the vaccine, your immunity does wane over time. But if you are eligible, and you can go onto nhs.uk/winter vaccinations and find out if you're eligible, anyone over the age of 50 is going to be eligible for both the COVID and the flu vaccine. If you are under the age of 50 and you're in an at-risk group, and that's anybody who's 5 to 49 who's in a clinical risk group because of underlying illness, or if you're 16 to 49 and you live in a house with somebody who's got a weakened immune system, or you're their primary carer, or you live in a resident, then you're eligible for the COVID vaccine. If you're in doubt, go on to nhs.uk/winter vaccinations, and you can not only check your eligibility, but you can also book your vaccine. If you have your vaccine now, it will top up your immunity to pretty much the same level as if you hadn't missed it. The time that you've been at risk is in the year when you haven't had your third one.
Have I got time for one question, or you got a dash?
Go for it.
One more.
And can I ask one question?
No.
Of course.
No, you can't. Dave Dano, who's very, very brave, of course you can, Neil. With the risk of COVID still ongoing, would Dr. Jarvis to you, boy.
Dr. Sarah will do very nicely.
Would advise us to wear a mask. Yeah, where are we on the mask?
Okay, so the point about face coverings is they don't offer standard face coverings. The FFP3s and the N95s and the really, really high quality ones offer some protection to you. The standard face coverings don't offer little or no, only a very small amount of protection to you, but they protect people around you. I still wear a face covering if I'm in a very crowded setting indoors with no ventilation. I don't wear face coverings outdoors. I keep a very careful eye. The Office of National Statistics sends through the details of what the level of infection are at any one time. It's much higher than you'd realise because, of course, we don't hear anything about the number of people who've been infected because we don't test routinely. But the Office of National Statistics has this survey, this pilot, where they've been testing tens of thousands of people every week, and they continue to do so to see what infection levels are. The last statistic we have, which came out about last Friday, showed that about 1 in 70 people was still positive for COVID. And the issue we've got is that these days, that's in England, it's pretty similar in the other countries. Northern Ireland, the trend is uncertain. It's slightly going down in Scotland and Wales, but it's at about the same level, 1 in 55 to 1 in 70. And what we're seeing, of course, is that people are still now going out if they've got a cold or if they've got a cough or if they're unwell.
Oh, I love that on the train. It's great on the tube in London, coughing all over you. Like, really?
Well, exactly. So the answer is, in terms of wearing a face covering, you are going to protect people around you. The best protection you can give is still to stay home if you have symptoms that might be COVID. And of course, to bear in mind, particularly if you're going to see somebody who's clinically very vulnerable. So when I went to see my dad, I continued to wear a face covering at all times. Sadly, he passed away. He was 96. So it wasn't entirely surprising. Thank you. In the summer. But I continued to wear a face covering when I was with him at all times, not to protect me, but to protect him.
One last question from Neil, because I know Dr. Jarvis has to go. Neil, you had
a very quick one. First of all, this campaign, where can people learn more about it?
So go on to www.nhs.uk, winter vaccinations. It will tell you all about why it's important. We know that, as I say, flu and COVID is spread more easily in winter. They can cause serious illness. Protection from the vaccine decreases over time, and the flu viruses change every year, and that's why if you had it, that's right. So please do, if you're eligible, go onto that website, find out if you're eligible, and if you are eligible, please, and you haven't done it now, come in and have your flu vaccine or your COVID booster.
Thank you. And my other question is very quickly, and it's not to do with COVID, but I can't resist since you're on. I can't smell or taste, not COVID related. It's had nothing. 4 years ago, I got a cold. All right, or 3 years, whatever it was. This is BC, before COVID. And normally the taste comes back within about 3 days. And it just never has. What can I do?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because in fact, what COVID has done, anosmia, very good. So what COVID has done is it's brought to the fore the fact that many viruses can lead to anosmia, a change in or loss of your sense of smell or taste. Osmia is not being able to smell. The answer is, if it's really troubling you, you could speak to your GP. You may be able to get a referral to an ENT clinic, because there is just some form of so-called smell retraining that may help you. So you sniff particularly strong smells, and you do it on a regular basis.
I bought it on Amazon, so I should keep doing that, should I?
It may well be worth doing, yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Jarvis, I know you're busier than a busy person, so thank you so much. We will see you again soon. Bless you. We could talk for hours, but I know you got to go. Thank you so much for coming to see us on Men's Radio.
Thank you, Doc.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. She's great. I love her. She's fantastic. There you are, Steph. I knew I'd get you back.
Hello, boys.
There's so much I really wanted to talk to her about. One of the things that has put me off, and I didn't want to be contentious, because I really admire her. No sarcasm. People think I'm always rude and sarcastic. I'm not. I really do admire her, which is why she's been on 3 or 4 times on the show. And don't forget, she's the one who goes out on all the TV shows as well. So I'm very grateful she comes onto our little radio station. But the thing that put me off about having my 4th vaccine was when the EU interviewed the woman from, was it Pfizer? And they said, well, have you tested it? And she went, no. And I'm standing there going, what did you just freaking say? What? And the question, this was in one of these like open parliamentary, sessions where you have to rock up. And she comes out, and let's face it, you and I, Steph, we've dealt with all these people a million different times, but in other walks of life, she just said, no. Have you tested that it doesn't transmit? No. I'm like, what the? Why am I taking this then?
I'm told by my producer, Mr. E, that in California the vaccine's been banned in the under 40s, and they're asking all kinds of questions about it in the European Parliament.
This is it.
Hmm.
Look,
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
I
Because
don't. You see, the trouble is,
UK Parliament. Sorry.
and Steph, jump in. This is not why you're here, but you're a man of the world. So, can I tell you about my life? Says he's a man of the world. Right. It's this. I don't want to jump into bed with all the conspiracy nuts because they talk utter crap. Bill Gates is putting. I had this conversation. I had a small part in a movie. Right? Did I ever tell you this, Neil? And I thought this was just a joke. I had a small part in a movie, and when you're making films, you hang around. It is the most boring. I can't bear it. It's so dull. And I'm waiting with all the extras, and there's two people. I won't identify who they are. And this was before the COVID really hit in, right? We're not having it, says the husband and wife. I said, oh, really? You do understand that Bill Gates, those are nanobots. They're injecting that. And I'm looking at these two and I'm thinking, you're freaking mad as a March hare. Do you honestly think Bill Gates is putting a nanobot in my system so he can see me go to Pets at Home and Tesco's? What does he give a shit where I go? This was the madness. This was the madness. But then on the other hand, Steph, and here's where I want your opinion. You get the woman saying, from Pfizer, I think it was, have you tested it? Not really. Where do you stand?
Well, where do I say? I went straight in there and had it. I didn't give it too much thought, if I'm honest. I've had it twice, not been seriously affected, but I just thought, like I said, I didn't really overthink it. I just thought I'd rather have the vaccine than not, and I left it at that because it's a toss of a coin, isn't it? Really, if there's no science to back it up, then yeah.
Well, who the hell knows? This really worries me. It really, because it was so rushed.
Yeah.
All right, Francois Pascal. My immune system is very low, bless her, because she's been not too good. And I was at my doctor's surgery where someone was coughing. Yeah, because you're sitting in the bloody waiting room, aren't you, Francois? Like all of us, and they're coughing and sneezing and they don't give a shit. And you come out the waiting room and you've got extra illnesses you didn't have when you went in. I have a chest cold. Can we ask people to wear a mask, please? Yes, it's not for them, it's for you. The point is well made by Dr. Jarvis.
So lucky to be in a doctor's waiting room. We've not been able to get into our doctors for 2 years. Which is why
that's another excuse. It's another excuse. Yeah. Well, they don't want you. I don't mean you. They don't want us. Could you read this out, please, Mr. Neil?
I will, and we read it out for the benefit of those listening on Deluxe Radio because they can't see us, they can only hear us. Philip Harling says, good afternoon, people. My wife and I are in our 60s and have had all vaccines, COVID and flu. Last year, the wife was rushed into hospital with abdominal pain, nothing serious, thank goodness. While she was there, I was not able to visit because of a COVID situation. When she was discharged 4 days later, she had COVID symptoms and unselfishly let me share them as well. We recovered after 10 days or so.
That's grounds for divorce. Telling you now, Philip, grounds for divorce, mate. Be a no contest. Now, what does this mean? This is from Asa Don Brown in New York State. I have a major autoimmune issue and I follow the science. So that means you do it or you don't do it. And I also think that your Dr. Fauci is highly suspect. See, this is where I worry. Fauci and his company were huge investors of the lab in Wuhan. Huge. That's not a myth. That's a fact. That's not some urban myth. Him and his company were probably the major investor in the Wuhan lab in China. And now he's in charge of all the American health. Well, he resigned. Retired. I beg your pardon. He retired, which is open to much interpretation, as they say. And look what they're doing in China. This is from Kimi Lashmar, where he says that the Chinese are revolting. Well, not at the Golden Dragon. We like that, didn't we, Neil? Golden Dragon was good. That was good. So it's interesting. Right, Steph, what advice would you give to people who want to help?
Okay, thank you. There are a couple of things you can do if you want to get involved. So Onwards and Upwards starts ventures to train and employ ex-offenders. Our first venture is called XO Bikes. We take donated bikes. A lot come from the police, from the railways, property companies, and the public. And the men are trained to become fully qualified mechanics. We then take them on. They refurbish bikes and we sell the bikes, or we help them get jobs in Halfords or Evans or whatever. Yeah, so what we would love from you is, if you've got any bikes to donate, they've got to be in decent condition. They have to be economically viable for us to be able to spend the time and money to refurbish them and then get the money back to pay the wages and the training. Then you can get in touch with us at donate@XO Bikes, and that's the letter X and the letter O, bikes.com.
Have you got X? Is it that for ex-offenders? It's taken me all this time to work it out.
Yes, and I'm pleased it's taken you all that time, because it's not supposed to be a front foot thing. Yeah. There's a whole debate about language. Is it returning citizens, prison leavers, ex-offenders? You know what it's like, guys. Political correctness changes every week.
Yeah, because it's all crap. That's why.
Well, yeah.
No, it's crap.
But one thing I really do want to do, and I'd love to get your view on this. One of the issues we face here is we're a fairly judgmental nation. We're not particularly forgiving. And I don't know. I
Hang on, Matt Hancock came third in the Jungle Show. We're not particularly forgiving. You must be joking.
Yeah,
he came third.
I don't think we were forgiving him, were we? We just wanted to see him get things shoved up his backside. Anyway, I think what I want to do at some point is, our logo is a circle. It's the 0 with an X in it. And I don't know about you, but I've committed I've done lots of things in my life, whether it's drink driving or all sorts of stuff, that if somebody had caught me, and maybe if I didn't look like this, I could have ended up inside. Right now, there is a statistic, and I'm not going to quote it because I don't know it, but they reckon about 2/3 of people in Britain fall in that camp. So most of us, to a greater or lesser degree, are ex-offenders. Yeah. And I'd love us just to, I want to start the day with our t-shirts, free t-shirts, where you're effectively saying, I'm Spartacus. I've done stuff that I shouldn't have done. I haven't been away for it, and it will just, I think it will just not normalize, but it will just make us think, hold on, why am I being so judgmental? I've done plenty that could have got me into prison.
And yet,
Steph, you're not buying it. Yeah.
I'm not buying it. And I'll tell you why I'm not buying it. No, I'm not buying it. I'll tell you why I'm not buying it. And I'm always very honest on this show, because I could just go, oh, that's a marvelous idea. And I love what you're doing. Be clear. Be clear. I'm a huge... Because I think you're trying to normalize shit, which should not be normalized. It is not normal to go and knife somebody. No. Let me finish. No. Let me finish. You asked me my reaction. So this is my reaction, right? Whether it's right or wrong is irrelevant. It's my reaction.
Yeah.
My reaction. It is not normal to just keep giving everybody, a laissez-faire attitude. You can't start equating driving 25 in a 20 zone with carrying a knife with the view that if something goes wrong, I'm going to stab somebody. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about labeling anybody that's been to prison as a bad person and saying, sorry, you're not fit for life.
But you didn't preface it with that.
Well,
had you prefaced it with that, I would have said, okay, I get that.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is not dismissing everybody that is an ex-offender.
No, they shouldn't be dismissed. Nobody should be dismissed. No, of course not.
That's all I'm talking about.
No. Not apart from paedophiles who should be hanged. But apart from that, right, and people who kill serving police officers, they should be hanged. But apart from that, everybody is a human being and everybody has a right. Everybody has a right. And everybody deserves a second chance.
Exactly. That's all we're saying.
Apart from paedophiles and murderers, obviously.
We agree there then, Ross. That's great.
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah. Yes, you'll always. The trick is to try and find some middle ground. Otherwise, life is absolutely impossible.
But back to your original question, how can people get involved and support what we're doing? If they've got bikes to donate, it's donate at exobikes.com. We're in Lewisham. They can bring the bikes down, see the workshop, meet the guys, see what goes on. Or if in extremes, if they're unable to do that and they've got a very good bike or a couple, we'll come in the van and we'll collect them. And then obviously the bikes are on sale on exobikes.com. Our main website launches around Christmas time. It's not the best time to launch a website, but there our product is available because we refurbish in two ways. If a bike comes in, it's in great condition, needs a light refurbishment, we will put it out there, recondition it, put it out there. It's pretty much as new at about 50-60% of the RRP. But the ones that aren't so good, they get sandblasted and powder coated swag black. That's our color. And then they have an identifier on them. XO1 is a guy called Trey. XO2 is a guy called Jamie. XO3 is Edu. They're our first, second, and third employees. So on the crossbar, it'll say,
oh, I love that.
XO1 hyphen 001. That's their first bike. So it's one of one.
Bless her, I love that.
And you turn up at the juicer, at the pub, on that bike, and people go, hold on, what's XO1 0013? You'll go, that's Edu's 13th bike. Who's Edu? And you can tell the story about Edu. And when you buy it online, you click on that code, and there'll be the video of Edu telling you about his past and his aspirations.
Now that speaks volumes about your marketing experience, because it's a beautiful story. That's a lovely story. You're personalizing and humanizing an inanimate object and giving it a backstory. And I think that is clever.
Very good.
That's really good, Steph.
Thanks. Well, it's a bike with a past and a bloke with a past coming together for a future. Yeah. Positive future.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Steph, give it a few months so you can see how it's all rolling along. No pun intended. Bikes. Yeah. Ha ha ha. And come back, and will you let us know?
I'd love to.
Please,
I love what you guys are doing. Yeah.
And please do, because I think what you've done, any initiative like this, you don't have to do it. You've chosen to do it. So good for you.
Thanks very much.
I think it's great.
Good for you, Steph. Lovely to meet you.
And to you guys. I love what you're doing with the station.
Give my best to Ian Priest.
Will do.
Thank you. Just give us that website address again before you go.
The website is exobikes.com. And if you want to buy, you can go there. If you want to donate, you can also go to the website and donate. But specifically, it's email us at donate@exobikes.com.
Super.
Terrific stuff.
Thanks,
guys. Great to meet you both.
Bye.
Back at you.
There you go. Great. When people give back, it's nice, isn't it?
What a great show.
Interesting. God, some of those things you want to deep dive into some of those stuff, because some of the points are like an hour's conversation.
Easily.
I mean, so much. So there's so much I wanted to talk to Dr. Jarvis about.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to nail my colours to the mast here, as they say. Nice modern phrase. You have to go in. If you have a guest like Dr. Jarvis, you have to go in and say, no, I'm going to listen to what she says with an open mind. I do not believe she is in the pocket or biased by big pharma, etc., etc. I believe
not at all.
that she is a proper doctor looking at the empirical. Thank you. Evidence. That's my view. I just wanted to make that clear. If I had somebody from Pfizer on, it'd be like, well, you're from Pfizer, you're from Moderna, or you're from the other stuff. Francoise, we wish you well. Wearing the mask, the point that Francoise makes is the fabulous Francoise Pascal is this: it's not for you. And when someone says, "Oh, you're wearing a mask, you moron," you say, "Hey, it's not for me. It's a courtesy to you, twat. It's a courtesy. So when I'm coughing or sneezing, you don't get ill." That's the point. It's not. It's just it's courtesy. It's not going to save you. That's the thing. And had they worn it, the people who weren't well sitting in the doctor's waiting room, Francoise wouldn't now be in bed. There you go. That's my view. Neil, you look very mysterious with this new lighting. I have to say, it's a sort of slightly gothic feel to you.
It's very temporary, and I shall be back in the brilliant lights of showbiz on Wednesday.
Brilliant lights of showbiz.
Oh, yes.
Oh, golly God.
Live from New Malden.
By the way, we're really packed up with guests probably now until Jan. But if you've got a subject, I've never said this before, but it's something, if you're listening and watching all over the world, If you've got a subject you'd like me and Neil to delve into and find the appropriate people, or just discuss with us, good luck with that. Let me know. You know how to get hold of me. I'm available 24/7. That's it. That's it for today. That's it. I found it a very interesting show. Fantastic guests, and if it makes the world a little bit of a better place, a bit more pleasant place. Well, they've done their job, and what a nice thing. That's it. Take care. Neil and I will be back on Wednesday, bright and breezy at 12. Bright and breezy for me, anyway. All right. God bless. Stay out of trouble. Bye, gang.